Hi everybody. Okay, so I wanted to make a video about impermanence and planning ahead and those sorts of things when it comes to non-duality. So if you are new to the channel and you may have watched my first video where I was wearing the same thing, I made that video as an introduction to my channel. Not so much with any real content of anything about non-dual happenings other than what was happening at that time. But these videos will more reflect what happens after if you realize the non-dual experience, which isn't really realized, but we are still seemingly living here on this planet and having the same sort of life we had before. So there is some changes, and I'd like to kind of share those and show you either by describing my daily life and the things that happen, or by literally showing you the things that I'm doing day to day. So this video is going to really show you the direction that this channel is taking. So you know, if you wanted to subscribe or whatnot, but I am going to do everything very organically. Like this video, I'm not really planning anything. I'm just getting on and talking to you about what's been happening, and also talking to you or showing you actual happenings since my non-dual experience. So I'm here in bed because what I'm going to share with you is actually something that didn't happen today. It happened actually a couple days ago. Okay, and I meant to make a video the other day, but it didn't happen. But one thing I have noticed is since the experience of non-duality, my memory is not the greatest, especially when it comes to things that happen. If they really, they just come and go, like air, like a flow. A lot of things don't really stick. So for me to really describe to you an experience that happened even 3 days ago can be kind of completely lost. So I still have memory of it now, but I feel like tomorrow it could be very different. So what I'd like to do with these videos is really show you the happenings as they happen, or the day of, or the day after. Okay, if I'm sharing something that already happened, because I can't plan everything, and that's what this video is about. With what happens, it just happens. There is no planning. There is no, I can't tell you that I'm going to be talking about this or showing you this happening tomorrow, or that I'm going to go plant a garden tomorrow and show you that, or I'm going to go to the store and show you this. After there is no self, that whole thing that happens and doesn't happen, there's no more planning. I was a huge planner. Now, when I say huge, I had like a planner. This is not a planner, but I will show you in a minute. I had a planner. I think it was the Erin Condren planner. It had everything. It was a custom planner. It had, you know, day by day. I could do hourly in there. I can had stickers. I wrote and planned everything. I used to keep binders with like plans, projects, things I was going to do. And that is all part of the self, because that no longer occurs. So in my understanding of what's happened with me, I think that was an attempt for the self to hang on to something, to control something, to say this is what's going to happen tomorrow, kind of lessen the neurosis in the person, which naturally happens when the self is gone. But at the time, I was very much myself, Nydia. So, so all of that trying to hang on and plan and write and this and that, it just goes away. It just doesn't happen. It's it's unusual, especially in my case, because I was such a planner. So you no longer want to plan. That's one thing that happens. Now, if you do still plan, if this has happened to you and you've had this experience and you still plan, there's nothing wrong with that. But with me and what I generally would think would happen to anybody else, because I can see how it correlates to not having the self in me, planning goes out the window. It's more of living in the moment. You know, you hear that a lot, living in the moment. Well, there is truth to that. There really is. Okay, I'm getting a notification on my phone. Okay, so see, that notification on my phone is just something that happens. Did I plan that I would be making a video and be disrupted by a notification or even talk about it? No, but it's what's happening, and I'm sharing that with you to show you the level which we can't control things, which we don't plan anything really. You know, I can plan to make this video, but my phone can stop working. I can plan to make this video and I meant to say something, but that notification popped up and now we're talking about that. So that's the impermanence of life. Is it really, once you start to observe it, you see that nothing really stays the same very long. Everything, and I mean everything, is always changing. And we have very little control. And the topics of free will and control and things like that, there's still some unknowing from my point of view of things. Of course, there's no self, but there is still some sort of trying to understand, for example, the fact that I don't use a planner all of a sudden, that now I'm living a different way. So trying to understand these certain things, there is still something there, and that may still be part of the self. This is all what's happening with me. So I'll share it very honestly, because there is nothing other than truth anyhow. So with me, what I notice is just kind of observing things and trying to make some sort of sense out of things. I think humans are always trying to make patterns and also control or cling on to things, or justify or explain, describe. All of these things, you'll see them in science, math, psychology, and basically anything that humans do. Anyhow, that notification did kind of sidetrack me there, but the notification coming in is just an example of something that happens and we didn't plan for. So when I used to be a planner and had my planner, I used to plan the whole week, sometimes the whole month in advance. And when that was planned, I would look at the whole year and start to plan like birthdays or, you know, things that might be even further away. So there was a lot of planning with me. And then, so I might even plan out my day hour by hour, because at the time I was working where I had to do appointments and things like that. So I was used to planning hour by hour. What you notice is a lot of those things do happen that you plan for, but actually what really happens is a lot more than what you planned. Or a lot of times it's not even what you planned, because something else happened. Something is always happening, and that's the magic of life and being. So when you realize that there is no body, there is no self. Another thing that kind of falls away is doing. So being busy and planning things and doing in order to get something, doing to get, or doing to have. There's no more wanting to have. There's no more wanting to get. So the doing isn't needed. Okay. So what ends up happening, I need some hot chocolate here. And this character, look what happens, just wants to have some hot chocolate. Did I plan that I would have hot chocolate? Yeah, in a way I sort of, you can say I made the hot chocolate and had it here. But at the time when it was being made, I didn't plan for it. And also, I didn't just plan to grab this. It just happened. Notice that with yourself and your actions. Like, I have all of a sudden an itch on my nose. Okay? That happening is not me. It's just happening. I didn't tell my hand or, I'm going to scratch my nose. Sometimes we think we do, but for the majority of the time we don't. So take a look at that in yourself and the actions and the movements and things that you do. Did you really plan? Did you really think about it before you did it? The majority of the time the answer is no, but it's something that nobody really pays attention to. But after this, happened to me, I started to do a lot of observing and wondering, how is it that I'm nobody and I'm not here, and all of a sudden I'm doing all this? What I noticed was I was never really doing it to begin with. We have very little control, if any. That's still a question. To be discussed as well, free will and things like that. Because what really appears to happen is that we aren't actually doing anything. We're doing it, but we're not doing it. Something else is doing it for us. So anyhow, this is how these conversations will go. Very organically. Like, it's just going to take us wherever it takes us. I did have an idea of what I was going to share with you, and that's what happened the other day. But look what we're discussing now. Something else. So that's how things go and how things are going to go in these videos. But if you notice, that's how things go in life. We plan to, for example, today is a school day. And my daughter is 13 years old, and she was meant to go to school today. It's a Friday, but weather happened, and it was a freeze, a 3-day freeze. Okay, and today it's freezing, and school is canceled. So while last week or at the beginning of the week or whenever, I might have thought, my daughter would be going to school today, that's not what happened. Weather happened. So there's another example. Emotions are like that. We can be very angry or upset or anxious, and if you watch that, what you learn, you don't have to have this awakening or anything to realize this is the beauty of these communications and sharings, is that you, in whatever state that you're in, you can observe this and observe your emotions. You can be extremely sad, extremely angry, whichever strong emotion, very happy. And what you'll notice is even later that day, or maybe 30 minutes later, you can change. Everything changes. So one moment I'm extremely anxious, and that's happened many of times, and I'm with that and just thinking, oh God, this is the end of the world. And this is before the self dropped. But when that would happen, a lot of times I think I'm always going to be like this. This is the end of the world. I'm always going to be like this. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I can't do this tomorrow, I can't do this next day. Where if you really actually observe it, you're anxious maybe 10 minutes and then you're off to doing something. I'm washing the dishes. I'm talking to my daughter about something. Um, my dog did something cute and now I'm laughing. So nothing really stays that long. We think it does, but it doesn't. Everything is always changing. And this is what I'd like to have you look at, you know, through this video and in your life, how things change and how, like, you know, me scratching my head, I'm not doing this. I'm just, all of a sudden my hand is back here. I have an itch and I'm scratching. I didn't plan for it. I didn't do it. It's not me. Anyhow, that's just some simple stuff. But, so we have so many emergencies, so many sudden things that happen. And I want you to start looking at this in your life. I can't be the only one. I know things happen for everybody. And all throughout the day, there's different things that need your attention that happen that seem like very important. And then suddenly they're not. Or suddenly things change. And I want you to take a look at that. We aren't in control of anything. Things have happened in the world that have shown that to a lot of people lately. So it's kind of been brought to the surface, and I'm hoping people are seeing that for no one. But we are still here, and there is still people that are stressed, that have these neuroses, that don't have this understanding. And while some speakers can say, you know, everything's okay, everything's perfect, everything's happening how it should, that is the truth. I completely agree. But for those individuals that they're happening is not understanding, not having this realization yet, having seeking energy and watching these videos and things like that, for that person, for those situations that arise, these sorts of communications, I think, can bring some peace and some understanding. And that's the only point of this. The only point. Anyhow, so the original thing I wanted to share with you was something that happened the other day, and magical things happen every day, but this is just one strange one. So anyway, I was at home and I was working on writing or something that I was working on. And my plan that day was just to stay home and work on these things. And then all of a sudden I hear, Nydia, Nydia. And I immediately knew it was an emergency. It was my neighbor. And I ran outside and I went over to her house and, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And so she says, my dad fell down. My dad fell down. He I think he had a heart attack. I think something happened to him. And help. And I said, you know, did you call the ambulance? She's working on that. I walk in. This man is fallen out of the shower. He's not clothed. He actually must have, in the shock of things, had an accident. He had pooped all over, you know, there was poop all over the bathroom. Okay, and this man was there. I didn't know if he had a broken bone or not. We couldn't move him. Anyhow, she calls the ambulance, and they finally get there and take him. And she starts to try to clean up, you know, the bathroom. And she starts gagging real bad and this and that. Well, I said, I have some trash bags. I have some things at home. I said, I'll clean this. I said, please sit down. I'll clean this. And did I think that I would be cleaning up somebody else's bathroom? Somebody's poop? No. Never in my life would I think I'd be doing that. But look what happens. That's what happened. So these things happen. I went. I got my trash bags. I got like some doggy pads and things I could find, some gloves. Thankfully, I had the gloves, or I don't know how this would go, but anyway, I went back in and I began to clean. And as I began to clean up the bathroom, I noticed that I had no sense of smell. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with what's going around or any of that, um, but there was no sense of smell. I wasn't gagging. It wasn't nasty. I just cleaned it up, and I cleaned it really well. And then I came back out, and I put everything in the trash and said, I'm going to go take a shower and I'll come back. And I did that. I took a shower and I came back. And we kind of talked about it and had a laugh about, you know, how everything happened. And then at the same time, we're hoping that that it was her dad, would be okay. But what I came to learn from that, or, you know, observe from that, was that it was another happening. You know, I was a Christian before. If you are a Christian, or Christianity or some verses, or you've heard this, I believe there's a verse, and it says something along the lines of, "We can make our plans, but it is the Lord who directs our path." So while I can sit there and plan on my planner, or write down that I'm going to be working, or that I'm going to work for 30 minutes on the computer and then do this and then do that, I can do that. That part, and this is where I'm saying that I'm not, so completely sure how much of what we do we have control over, but it seems or appears that I think that I have control to plan these things, to write them down. But that's only to write something down. Because what ends up happening is I start working. I wrote down I'm going to work for 30 minutes, not look at social media, not do this or that, or whatever you end up writing or planning. And then suddenly you get this, let's say it's your neighbor screaming that needs help. All of a sudden that's out the window. We can make our plans, but the Lord directs our path. So with realizing that there's no self, we just realize that there is the Lord. So you can call that God, you can call that source, energy, you can call it the Lord, you can call it whatever you want. We know, or I've come to realize that names are meaningless. Okay, so the Lord, Allah, let's say Buddha, trying to think of other spiritual, let's say a guru, some spiritual leaders and whatnot. All of those are pointing to the same thing. The name does not matter. That's a label. That's a description. That's not the truth. When I get into talking more about the truth, which, I probably speak on that more specifically, but the truth is what actually is. So like my hand here physically, this hand, and it's kind of silly to talk about it because at the same time it's not real, but my hand is real. I can see it. This is real. I have it. It's in front of me. I can touch it. I can feel it. I see it. It works. I can move it. This is real. But what science says my hand is, okay, my hand, inside there's blood vessels. The blood is actually blue. There's nerves in there. The nerves and things are connected to my brain, and my brain has to send a signal for it to move. All of that is the description, the not truth. Okay, that's not needed. What's real is what is. A lot of times people get stuck on what's not. That's not important. So we'll discuss that later on, but anyway, so with what happened, going back to what happened, kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But going back to what happened, the smells or, what we think can happen in a situation doesn't always occur that way. Okay? And those are actually descriptions and things that don't hold any meaning. So, that this man's poop is really any different than a flower. The truth is, it's not. It's not any different. It's the same. Everything's the same. We're all the same. And we're all coming out of what is, I like to call it God. But again, you can get stuck on labels, and that's where my train of thought fell. But we were talking about labels and what we call God, what we call this source energy, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Those are all just descriptions. There's no point to get stuck on it. What matters is what really is. And where the paradox is, when I'm saying that, it's actually something that is unseen. So, communication is very hard when it comes to talking about non-duality. First of all, language is dual. So everything is cause and effect, this or that, or, everything's two. And non-duality is not two. So when that's language and everything's set up that way, it is very hard to communicate with you what truly is. But I'm trying to do that through these daily happenings. So anyway, when we realize that it's all the same, that the only thing that there is and isn't is God. And God is like a shapeshifter. It's a creator, a shapeshifter that's arising in everything. It's arising in this hot chocolate. It's arising in my dog that's laying here with me. All of that is God. It's arising in me. So it's also rising in that poop. It's also rising in a flower. So what ends up happening is you start to kind of not be so adverse to things. And almost somehow it's like a magic. You don't see things the same anymore. I really don't. So for me to clean up that poop and then later understand that, oh, I didn't gag. I didn't have an issue. I just did it. From that observation, it's observed that the poop never was an issue. It was a self and its descriptions about what poop is. That it's stinky, that it's smelly, that if I clean it, I'm disgusting, that's going to get on me, that I'm better than to clean the poop. She should have to clean the poop. She's his daughter. Maybe they need to get a cleaning service. I don't need to do that. I'm too good for that. Or I'm scared of poop or whatever. All of that falls away. So there's no barrier in you doing these things at all. It just gets done. So it's a lot more effective. It uses less energy in your brain. So another thing is I've noticed is I don't have to sleep as much. All that mental energy of thinking all of these thoughts relating to this situation. What will people think? What will happen here? This and that. All of that doesn't occur. So what happens is you're more relaxed. You have more energy to get it done and not think about it. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you to look at the impermanence of things that occur in your life. Observe them. See how they're changing. See how your mood changes throughout the day. To look at planning. Look at how we plan things, but they don't turn out that way. Or maybe they do, but a lot of other things happen also that we didn't plan on. The majority of the day is things that we did not plan on. And there's so much beauty in that. When these things occur, when I think, oh, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, I'm going to go work and do this and that, but something else arises, even if it's horrible, because really nothing is horrible. Everything's the same. But even when something arises that could be horrible or amazing, any of it, it's all so alive and beautiful. It's like, wow, this happened. This is God happening. It's really magical. But, so I wanted to talk to you about impermanence, about planning. And we got to talk a little bit about truth in there and some other things. But these are the kind of lessons that we can learn from everyday happenings. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I intend to make a video really talking about what happened with me. I know that people are always very curious about that, and that sort of thing. And then, maybe later on, could do like a live or something like that. I really want this channel to be very organic, to show like what is actually happening, or things that happened, the other day or whatever. Because all these things that happen is not things that we plan on. This is God. This is God arising. It's amazing. It's God. Or whatever you want to call it. I call it God because I can't fathom or think of anything greater than this. And I don't know, other speakers exactly what all their awakening entailed. But like I said in my first video, I had a heart's awakening at the first time. The second time, I also had a heart's awakening, but I also had an awakening to reality and the no self. And when you have a heart's awakening, that's God. I mean, you can't undeny that. The only label or word in this world that could encompass such a feeling is the word God. So that's why I use that. But it is the God that most people know. Like I said, I was a Christian, and the God that I knew and the God the Bible talks about is the same God. But there is some differences. The Bible holds a lot of truth, and you will find a lot of truth in the Bible. You will find a lot of truth from Jesus. You will find a lot of truth from other religions, from Islam, from any old religion. You will find truth in them because they were all speaking to the same thing. So it's beautiful now to really see that. So that's why I call it God. It is God for me. Now, but the God that was punishing, or the God that was to be feared, that fell away. That is not God. So you will, and I'll touch on those things more, but with the heart's awakening, it's so much love that you can't even take it. It just takes over you. And it for me, when I had my heart's awakening, it felt like a puzzle. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It did go down in my body, and actually it came up. But it was like all the pieces, they almost felt like vertebrates, but there were puzzle pieces, all came together and got connected. And I mean, it wasn't, I couldn't see it, but I sensed it, and like I knew it somehow, that all these pieces like literally connected up my spine. And as that was happening, it was all love, just emanating everywhere. And when I felt that, my mind understood that I have always been loved and everything has always been okay. There's never been anything wrong with me. Everything that's ever happened was perfectly fine and accepted and loved and everything about me and who I am and who I was and just everything is pure love. The bad, the good, what we label bad and good was all okay. And doesn't the Bible say that? Doesn't a lot of religions say things like that? They call it sin, but that God forgives all sin. Even God doesn't even remember that anymore. And there's sort of a truth to those sorts of things. I mean, when you still cling to that there is sin, that there is a good and a bad, that's the problem. But the truth is that God has already accepted all of that before you were ever born. All of it. So for us to have guilt, have shame, have anxiety, have these sorts of things, depression, all of these sorts of things, fear especially, that is false. That is the problem. If there was a problem, that would be the problem. Okay? But even that is what's happening. But when you realize that there is no self, that doesn't occur anymore at all. So when we talk about like the devil or something like that, what I realized is the devil is not some creature or demonic figure in the underworld or something that, that grabs a hold of us and makes us do things. No, in a way you can say that, but what it is fear. The devil is fear. The devil is anxiety. The devil is depression. The devil is self-doubt. The devil is self-shaming. That is the devil. That's the devil. And where is that coming from? From you. So you are the devil. But when there's no you, there's no devil. Isn't that wild? So when there's no you, you're in heaven. And when you realize this, you realize that everything prior to that understanding, that was hell. There was no devil. There was no creepy devil with horns and red colored skin. And no, that never was. There was no devil. You were the devil. When you get rid of you, there is only God. So if you're still clinging, or, if you're clinging to fear, that's not God. That's the devil. In the end, it's all meaningless. In the end, it was all just happening and not happening. So none of this really matters. But the reason that I speak to it, and maybe some other speakers don't, is because I realize that majority of the human population here on Earth, even though it is nobody literally in those bodies, there is a sense of self, whether that's an energy arising in a person, a contracted energy, as some speakers I've heard saying. Whatever that is, does experience stress, does experience anxiety, depression, all of these things. And I think this communication, this message, if it resonates, can really help to bring the truth out. And that is why I do it. Okay. So, I hope you enjoyed that, and that is kind of what I wanted to share with you. Of course, it's not exactly how I wanted it to happen, because we can't plan. We can't plan exactly. So I won't plan. So that is why I don't any longer use a planner. I don't have a planner. And it was kind of weird not to have a planner, but I don't have one, because why would I plan and waste time and energy on something like that when I don't actually, I can plan all I want. Like that verse says, you can plan all you want, but God directs your path. So I can sit there and plan all day, write out everything I'm going to do, but what actually ends up happening tomorrow or a week from now or a year from now, you'll notice is very much different. So that's why I'd like you to pay attention to what you think is what you want to happen, what you're planning, and what actually happens in your day to day. And what happens and how long it happens for and how things are changing. Pay attention to that, you know. Pay attention to how people react. One minute they love you. You know, you're their best friend. They care for you. They're with you. But then you do something that they don't agree with. Could be something very simple. You didn't buy the car they wanted you to buy. You went and got a medical procedure or something that they didn't agree with. You changed churches. You got a divorce. I mean, it could be very minimal things or very big things, but sometimes these things, what you'll notice, these people you think that love you, as soon as things change, everything changes. So all of a sudden, they're not your friend. They don't love you. They don't take your calls. They don't support you. So it's a very conditional type of love. And what I'm speaking to here is unconditional love. And it is so great, so amazing that it can't really be even spoken of. But I hope that this resonates somehow with you and that it works in you. And that this realization will be seen. Now, whatever you're already doing is perfectly fine as well. But I know that there are some benefits to not having the self. Whether other speakers want to speak to that or admit to that or not, there are. And I understand that there's no control, that nobody can say, oh, I'm going to study these videos for hours and then I'll be enlightened or I'll be no self or this or that. I understand that that can't happen. I understand that people actually can't do that. We actually aren't doing anything. But in these messages that resonate, this is all part of what's happening. Me making this video, and if this message resonates, it's part of what's happening. I'm not doing it. You're not doing it. You may think you're doing it. I may think I'm doing it, but actually I'm not doing it. So this is just what's happening, and this is what God wants to happen, because it's what's happening. Isn't that beautiful? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want to thank you for watching it. I see now I've been talking a long time, so if you're still sticking around, I hope it resonated with you, and I hope you'll check back and subscribe and do the notification bell so that you can get my videos when they come out. And I would like to share with you the next time, since this is a fairly new channel, how everything happened for me. People are always very also curious about the story, but many speakers don't want to speak to the story because it doesn't matter, and I understand that. But I also understand that the ego wants information. The ego wants to know the benefits. The ego wants to know how it happened, the story, and how you live, what's happening. So all of these things that the ego wants to know is what a lot of speakers don't want to speak to, because we realize that none of that matters and none of that brings you closer to this or anything. But if you are going to be watching videos, you might as well know. So I will share that with you. Next time I'll share that. It's actually a twin flame journey, which I didn't even realize was twin flame, but that is how I came to this sort of realization. So I will be discussing that on my next video. So I hope that you'll join me in that, and I'll see you hopefully again.